I guess when I was younger, people always said I liked to argue, so it seemed like a natural profession. But on a more serious note, I think it's probably because as I got older, it's very important to me that people make decisions, and the decisions they make have consequences. So I'm very into accountability, and people have to take responsibility for their actions. And this job often is about that, trying to hold people accountable for the choices and actions they do. I was always very interested in law, not just law, but being a prosecutor specifically. When I went to college, I knew I was going to pursue law, or probably because everybody else in my family was into business, I considered it, but law was always my first choice. The best part is trying to bring a sense of closure and hopefully justice to the people that have been wronged by others. You see what they go through, you see the suffering, the time, that if we can do something to try to bring a little peace or closure to the whole process, that makes you feel very good about it. One of the early things you learn is what I know to be true and what I can prove to be true are not always the same thing, and I'm stuck with what I can prove to be true, which can be really frustrating because you meet some really good people who've had some bad things happen to them, and you really want to do everything you can for them, and sometimes there's just limitations. Sometimes there's just not the evidence, so you fight to do as much as you can for them. Recently, I was involved in a case that took about 3 years to finally resolve itself. And it sticks with me mostly because it's cases of this nature, but specifically this one involved 6 young women, and the strength they had to stand up because the defendant was actually a father figure to 3 of them. And the strength it took to stand up, to tell their mother what happened, to be willing to come to court, to persevere through the whole process and all the delays that sometimes happen. It is amazing how strong of people you meet and what they can do. And so that will always stick with me, what they had to endure and ultimately stand up and get their vindication in the end. It can be emotionally difficult, but what I have to do as a prosecutor is nothing compared to what they're going through. It's difficult because you know the suffering they're feeling, you know that things are beyond your control, and you feel terrible when you have to tell them there's been another delay, a continuance. But we want to make sure we do it right. What I mean by that is we never want a situation where we do a trial where there's a potential appeal issue that may cause a retrial. So we want to have as clean a trial as possible so we can get them justice without having to make them go through the process more than once. So yeah, it's tough, and we try to limit how much we talk to them about the events, and as we know we're going, we would talk to them because it's you could see that it weighed on them. You could see at the end, especially the younger girls, as I think they had a greater realization at the end what was done to them than they did at the beginning. You could see the emotional weight it had on them, and quite frankly at the sentencing you could see the emotional weight lifted off them as they finally got their day in court and were able to say at sentencing what a terrible thing he did and he was getting what he deserved. It seems, and currently as you look at the media, there seems to be a lot of distrust amongst authority figures, and as we are governmental agency, we would be deemed an authority figure. I guess that can be frustrating. I think sometimes the police and the prosecutor's office get vilified as if all we're looking for is convictions, and that's so far from the truth. I've worked with police officers for 20 years of my career. They're just doing their job, collecting evidence, and quite frankly, as prosecutors, myself and every prosecutor I've ever worked with, it may sound corny, but we actually, unlike defense attorneys or other attorneys, our responsibility is to justice, not to defend a particular person, not to fight for a particular result, but to fight for justice, which means, and I have had cases with further evidence stuff that sometimes we dismiss it. We're not just looking for convictions. We're looking to do what's right and what's fair to the defendant as well as victims and everything based on what the evidence tells us.